Shabbat Shalom to the world. All praises, Israel. Oh my gosh, it's been a hot minute. You guys know, if you're watching the videos, I, I've been out for a couple of weeks since the last time we met, and we was reading Judith chapter 8 and 9. A couple of things happened in the family and just been dealing with some stuff. It's no excuse, but it is what it is. Anyway, Salakia, that I wasn't able to keep up with getting a, you know, getting the videos out every week like I wanted to. But all praises to the Father that we're here again, and praying that you guys are in good health and just enduring. I'm facing the east right now, Kodam. So just gonna go ahead and say a quick prayer, the Hebrew Creed, and so let's do that real quick. Shema Yesharela Ahaya Elana Yahweh Ahaya Akad. Shema Yesharela Ahaya Elana Yahweh Ahaya Akad. Shema Yesharela Ahaya Elana Yahweh Ahaya Akad. Alright. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Just want to give thanks and praises again for health and strength. All praises for making it through another week, 6 days of work, 7 days rest, and that we're here. We just, another day. Again, every day, every morning you wake up is another day of just His grace and mercy, another day to get it right, and still, just praying for each other to just make sure that we just stay on this straight and narrow, because to veer to the left or right is turmoil, and everlasting turmoil, as that, the right is, you drown, and the left you burn in fire. So we don't want to do that. We want to stay on the straight and narrow. If when you fall, you pray for strength to get back up 10 times stronger, and just seek His face. All right. Nobody said that this road would be easy. But it's definitely the road that we need to take, and we know that we're gonna go through stuff, especially once we prepare, once we come in the knowledge of who we are, who our Father is, and what He requires of us, and that's to follow Him and follow His laws and statutes, right? Okay, so we're gonna dive into this book, and I'm gonna try to cut out a lot of my babbling that I normally do, because we have a lot to read. We're gonna pick up with chapter 10 in Judith, and that's in the Apocrypha. Again, sisters, my Akis, I hope that you purchase your Apocrypha. If you don't know where to find one, I think they might have some in the Barnes and Nobles, which I got mine from Amazon. It's like $8.99. The matter went up on the price since then because they know we try and cop them. But either way, however it is, you should get one, and you could also download it for free on your Google app or something like that. Okay. So again, we're going to Judith in the Apocrypha. We're going to start at chapter 10. Now, after that, she had ceased to cry unto the God of Israel, and had made an end of all these words. She arose where she had fallen down, and called her maid, and went down unto the house in which she abode in the Sabbath days, and in her feast days. And she pulled off the sackcloth which she had on, and put off the garments of her widowhood. And a lot of you that are just tuning in to these videos, to this video particularly, maybe, if you're not abreast with chapter 8 and 9, or 1 through 8, you can watch my last video. You can get chapter 8 to 9, and then watch this one, or just go ahead and take some time to read up to chapter 8, so you can get the knowledge, understand what we're reading right now in chapter 10. Okay, but just to summarize it real quick, Judith, she's a widow. She was married to a brother from the tribe of Manasseh, and he died, so she was a widow. And then she was really called to her people to kind of, you know, bring them back to remembrance of their father and who they're dealing with, and that they should wait on him, and let him do what he's going to do. And the only way the Most High going to do what he promises he's going to do is if we keep our end of the bargain, and to follow him in everything, and not rely on our oppressors, not rely on the enemy, not cry on to the enemy, and to keep his laws and statutes. All right. So Back to verse 3. She pulled off the sackcloth which she had on, and put off the garments of her widowhood, and washed her body all over with water. She anointed herself with precious ointment, and braided the hair of her head, and um, put on it, and put on a tire upon it, and put on her garments of gladness, wherewith she had clad during the life of Manasseh her husband. So, and says, and she took sandals upon her feet, and put about her bracelets and her chains and her rings and her earrings and her ornaments, and deck herself bravely, to allure the eyes of all men that would see her. Now, I want to stop there real quick, um, because I don't know if a lot of us just think it's just today that we just be like, trying, really look nice and stuff like that. um just because you in the knowledge of who you are now and trying to walk righteously doesn't mean that you can't adorn yourself with earrings, ornaments, fix up your hair nicely and sit, but all in modesty. And a lot of the things we shouldn't be doing too. You see here that she did that to allure men, the eyes of men that could see her. Now she's doing this for a reason, okay? But remember, she's a widow. So you don't want to be dressing like that when you're a widow, you know, and you definitely don't want to be dressing like that to attract men, because you might attract the wrong type of guy. Okay, and on top of that, it shouldn't be about your appearance. We know that I think it's Corinthians. Don't quote me on that. I'm not too good on where exactly they are, but I know what it says. It says that let it not be the outward appearance and the braiding of the hair, but the hidden man, okay? It should be about what's inside and what you're really about, because any man, you could attract any man, right? And now you're in a relationship and you stuck in that relationship, or things go left because it was all about the appearance. But you don't walk together because you didn't agree from the beginning, because his spirit ain't in the right place or your spirit in the right place with him. And so you wasn't looking for the same things, okay? So we see here that it's not a bad thing to look beautiful for your husbands. um and when you do have a husband, you I know, like, a lot of women in the truth, their husbands don't want them to wear certain things when they're not around. Like, they're out and about together, maybe on a dinner or a date or whatever it is. It might be okay to wear certain things. And I'm not talking about something that's not modest now, still modest, but maybe you can't wear your hair out when you're not with your husband. Maybe always cover it up. Maybe because he don't want you to attract other men. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're not with him, because you don't want to have that type of attention, or anybody lusting off of you. Maybe your legs are out or something like that. So, you know anyway, I'm babbling. Sorry. Um so verse 5. Then she gave her maid a bottle of wine and a cruse of oil, and filled the bag with parched corn and lumps of figs, and with fine bread. So she folded all these things together and laid them upon her. Thus they went forth to the gate of the city of Bethulia, and found standing there Osias and the ancients of the city, Chabris and Charmis. And when they saw her, and that her countenance was altered, she looked different now, like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And her apparel was changed, they wondered at her beauty very greatly, and said to her, the God of our fathers, give thee favor, and accomplish thine enterprises, to the glory of the children of Israel, and to the exaltation of Jerusalem. Then they worshipped God. And she said to them, command the gates of the city to be opened unto me, that I may go forth to accomplish the things whereof ye have spoken with me. So they commanded the young men to open unto her as she had spoken. And when they had done so, Judith went out, she and her maid with her. And the men of the city looked after her until she was gone down the mountain, until she had passed the valley, and could see her no more. Thus they went straight forward in the valley, and the first watch of the Assyrians met her, and took her, and asked her, of what people art thou, and whence comest thou, and whither goest thou? And she said, I am a woman of the Hebrews. That's right. And she and and am fled from them, for they shall be given you to be consumed. She already in character, okay? Let's remember that. She dressed herself up. She had spoke to her Hebrew brothers previously that she about to do something, and I need your graces to do so, okay? And they know she's a goodly woman and a godly woman. All right. I am coming before Holofernes, the chief captain of your army, to declare words of truth, and I will show him a way whereby he shall go and win the hill country without losing the body or life of one of his men, of any one of his men. And now when the men heard her words and beheld her countenance, they wondered greatly at her beauty and said to her, Thou hast saved thy life, in that thou hast hastened to come down to the presence of our Lord. Now therefore come into his tent, and some of us shall conduct thee, until they have delivered thee to his hands. And when thou standest before him, be not afraid in thine heart, but show unto him according to thy word, and he will entreat thee well. Then they chose out of them 100 men to accompany her and her maid, and they brought her to the tent of Holofernes. Then was there a concourse throughout all the camp, for her coming was noised among the tents, and they came about her, as she stood without the tent of Holofernes, till they told him of her. And when they wondered at her beauty, I'm sorry guys, it's like I need my glasses. And they wondered at her beauty and admired the children of Israel because of her. And every one said to his neighbor, who would despise this people that um, have among them such women? Surely it is not good that one man of them be left, who being let go might deceive the whole earth. And they that lay near Holofernes went out, and all his servants, and they brought her into the tent. Now Holofernes rested upon his bed under a canopy, which was woven with purple, gold, emeralds, and precious stones. So they showed him of her, and she came out before his tent with silver lamps going before him. And when Judith was come before him and his servants, they all marveled at the beauty of her countenance, and she fell down upon her face and did reverence unto him as his servants took her up. So this remind me of Esther, how she knew what to do and when to do it. Remember, it's a time to speak, a time to, you know what I'm saying. She decked herself. She took she had fasted. This is Esther. She had fasted and prayed for 3 days in sackcloth, but then afterwards she decked herself. She went to the king and kind of buttered him up, okay, and just had to have the right words to say, because this is a nation, but a whole nation is behind her. You know what I'm saying? So she didn't just think about herself. And this is what Judith is doing now. And just like to equate it with today, you know, um, is all for one and one for all. That's how we should be. Um, Instead of protesting and crying out to your enemies and stuff, she went to the Father. And we read in chapter 9, the whole thing was about her dropping down and praying to the Most High God of Israel, not praying to, any one of these other nations out here. They can deliver you from anything. They're the ones that want to keep you in captivity. So how ridiculous we look crying out to them for salvation or to save us when they can't save us. So, you know, it's real brave of a woman to really step up and do this. And that's what I was saying before, sisters. You don't know how you might be used by the Father. If if you have the right the spirit, and you could be used by the Father to do great things, just as many of our sisters we've been reading about. And because it's not about just one person. It's not just about me. It's not just about you. It's not just about the person next to you or whatever. It's about the entire nation of Israel, the entire nation. And remember when we all got punished for what our forefathers did. How, we wasn't in the wilderness, but here we are being punished for what they did. So you see what I'm saying? Like we got to stand up for the Father, and in turn, that's standing up for your people. Okay. So chapter 11. Then said Holofernes unto her, Woman, be of good comfort, fear not in thine heart, for I never heard any that was willing to serve Nebuchadnezzar, the king of all the earth. Now therefore, if my people that dwelt in the mountains had not set light by me, I would not have lifted up my spear against them. But they have done these things to themselves. Oh, it says, now therefore, if thy people that dwelt in the mountains had not set light by me, I would not lifted up my spear against them. Okay. But now let me wherefore But now tell me wherefore thou art fled from them, and art come unto us. For thou art come for safeguard. Be of good comfort. Thou shalt live this night and hereafter. So, like she said, she come to pretty much kind of. She told the Assyrians she coming to kind of help them. Okay, to put her people into their hands, but that we know that's not the case. And then he's saying here, you fleeing, you did the right thing, you with us, you um pretty much you a sellout, so that's good. We're gonna protect you, and while we massacre your people. And we have a lot of people in Israel that have been doing that from the history of existence, that will sell out to the other nations, or to the enemies, because they want safeguard, or um, you know, to get in good with them, live good, riches, whatever it is they think they could get out of it, they'll sell us out. And just like how Judas did to Christ and the 12 and the disciples, he sell out Christ for what, 30 pieces of silver or something like that. So you see what I'm saying? You got people that would infiltrate the camp just to get close to you, just to sell you out. Um, but that's what he thinking she about to do. But let's read verse 4, chapter 11. For none shall hurt thee, but entreat thee well, as they do the servants of King Nebuchadnezzar my lord. Then Judith said unto him, Receive the words of thy servants, and suffer thine handmaid to speak in thy presence, and I will declare no lie to my word this night. And if thou wilt follow the words of thine handmaid, God will bring the thing perfectly to pass by thee, and my Lord shall not fail of his purpose. As Nebuchadnezzar, king of all the earth, liveth, and as his power liveth, who had set thee for the uphold of every living thing. For not only men shall serve him by thee, but also the beasts of the field, and the cattle, and the fowls of the air shall live by thy power under Nebuchadnezzar and all his house. For we have heard of thy wisdom and thy policies, that it is reported in all the earth that thou only art excellent in all the kingdom, and mighty in knowledge, and wonderful in feats of war. Now as concerning the matter which Achior did speak in thy council, we have heard his words. For the men of Bethulia saved him, and he declared unto them all that he had spoken unto thee. Therefore, O Lord and Governor, reject not his word, but lay it up in thine heart, for it is true. For our nation shall not be punished, neither can the sword prevail against them, except they sin against their God. You hear that? Like, the Most High is for us once we, you know, are for Him. Okay? That's why I say here, except they sin against their God. Like, we have the most, we have the God behind us, and so your enemies, don't even exist really. Okay, once you know you're keeping his laws and statutes, he will prepare a table in the midst of your enemies for you. Okay, um, and in nobody can come against the Father. All these other gods are idols. Okay, verse 11. And now that my Lord be not defeated and frustrate of his purpose, even death is now fallen upon them, and their sin had overtaken them, wherewith they will provoke their God to anger, whensoever they shall do that which is not fit to be done. For their victuals fail them, and their water is scant, and they have determined to lay hands upon their cattle, and purpose to consume all those things that God had forbidden them to eat by his laws. And they are resolved to spend the first fruits of the corn and the tenth of wine and oil which they had sanctified and reserved for the priests that serve in Jerusalem before the face of our God. The which things it is not lawful for any of the people so much as to touch with their hands. So our people in this time here were doing wicked stuff. Okay, and this is why the Most High is putting these other nations against them. This is why this what's about to happen is about to befall them, because they was doing these things. Now how dare you spend the first fruits? You to give the first fruits. First fruits we know is what, 50 days after Passover, but they doing the other stuff with it. Instead of sacrificing it, only the Levites were supposed to, you know, they're eating meats they shouldn't be eating and all this stuff. So yeah, why would your Father look out for you after that? All right. Verse 14. But they have sent some to Jerusalem, because they also that dwelt there have done the like, to bring them a license from the Senate. Now when they shall bring them word, they they will forthwith do it, and they shall be given thee to be destroyed the same day. Wherefore I thine handmaid, knowing all this, am fled from their presence, and God had sent me to work things with thee, whereat all the earth shall be astonished, and whosoever shall hear it. For thy servant is religious, and thy servant of God of and serveth the God of heaven day and night. Now therefore, my Lord, I will remain with thee, and thy servants will go out by night into the valley, and I will pray unto God, and he will tell me when they have committed their sins. And I will come and show it unto thee. Then thou shalt go forth with all thine army, and there shall be none of them that shall resist thee. And I will lead thee through the midst of Judea until thou come before Jerusalem, and I will set thy throne in the of midst thereof, and thou shalt drive them as sheep that have no shepherd, and a dog shall not so much as open his mouth at thee. For these things were told to me according to my foreknowledge, that and they were declared unto me, and I am sent to tell thee. And her words pleased Holofernes, and all his servants, and they marveled at her wisdom, and said, there is not such a woman from one end of the earth to the other, both for beauty of face and wisdom of words. Likewise Holofernes said unto her, God had done well to send thee before the people, that strength might be in our hands, and destruction upon them that lightly regard my Lord. And now thou art both beautiful in thy countenance and witty in thy words. Surely if thou do as thou hast spoken, thy God shall be my God, and thou shalt dwell in the house of Nebuchadnezzar, and shalt be renowned throughout the whole earth. So, yeah, this is some stuff. I mean, she went to the enemy, saying she's going to deliver up her people, which she really not. It's just catching, it's like, how you say that saying? She's setting a trap. She's setting a trap for them. The ones who set the trap shall fall in their own trap. But yet they don't know that that she about to be the one to set the trap. And they that marveling at her beauty and stuff because Israelite women we got it like that. um, but she's also full of wisdom. I mean, to be talking like this and spitting truth, but then you know it's gonna follow me because no, he's saying um you're gonna worship Nebuchadnezzar. No, she not. No, 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 no. I'm here to help my people, but I'm gonna say what I got to say while I can say it to make you think so, you know, because I want to deliver my people. All right, chapter 12. Then he commanded to bring her in where his plate was set, and bade that they should prepare for her of his own meats, and that she should drink of his own wine. And Judith said, I will not eat thereof, lest there be an offense, but provision shall be made for me of the things that I have brought. Yeah. See, it's just certain things you just, how far you gonna go? How far you gonna go? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm telling you stuff you want to hear and all of that stuff, but she dare not break the laws and statutes while she doing it. You know what I mean? Just like how we working in the midst of our enemies every day, and but you're not going to conform to their ways, be not like the heathens. Um, you know, I might go to, for example, I might go to a coworker part at the party for people at my job or something, whatever you call them things, and a potluck at the job, but and I might be fraternizing, sitting there working with you know people of other nations, but I dare not break these dietary laws while I do so, just to kiki kaka with you. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I'm gonna work hard because I want this raise, but I'm not going to not wear my fringes while I'm on the job. And this is what she's doing. You know what I'm saying? She said, I will not eat thereof, lest there be an offense, but provisions shall be made for me of the things I have brought. So, you know what kind of meat they was eating, or what kind of wine they was whining on? But you know what? None of that. The things they sacrifice unto idols. Okay. So, and being a woman of wisdom, she knows this. So let's keep reading. Then Holofernes said unto her, if thy provision should fail, how should we give thee the like? For there be none with us of thy nation. Then said Judith unto him, as thy soul liveth, my lord, thine handmaid shall not spend those things that I have. Therefore the Lord work mine therefore the Lord work by my hand the things that he had determined. Then the servants of Holofernes brought her into the tent, and she slept till midnight, and she arose when it was toward the morning watch. And she went to Holofernes, saying, let my lord now command that thy handmaid may go forth unto prayer. Then Holofernes commanded his guard that they should not stay her. Thus she abode in the camp 3 days, and went out in the night into the valley of Bethulia, and washed herself in a fountain of water by the camp. And when she came out, she besought the Lord God of Israel to direct her way to the rising up of the children of her people. That's right. So she came in clean and remained in the tent until she did eat her meat that evening. And in the fourth day, Holofernes made a feast to his own servants only, and called none of the officers to the banquet. Then she uh, then she wait. Then said he to Bagoas the eunuch, who had charge over all that he had, go now and persuade this Hebrew woman which is with thee, that she come unto us and eat and drink with us. For lo, it will be a shame for our person if we shall let such a woman go, not having had her company. For if we draw her not unto us, she will laugh us to scorn. Then went Bagoas from the presence of Holofernes, and came to her, and he said, let not this fair damsel fare to come to my Lord, and to be honored in his presence, and drink wine, and be merry with us, and be made this day as one of the daughters of the Assyrians, which served in the house of Nebuchadnezzar. Um, then said Judith unto him, Who am I now that I should gainsay my Lord? Surely whatsoever pleaseth him I will do speedily, and it shall be my joy unto the day of my death. Now she arose and decked herself with her apparel and all her woman's attire, and her maid went and laid soft skins on the ground for her over against Holofernes, and she had received which she had received of Bagoas for her daily use, that she might sit and eat upon them. Now when Judith came in and sat down, Holofernes, his heart was ravished with her, and his mind was moved, and he desired greatly her company, for he waited a time to deceive her from the day that he had seen her. Then said Holofernes unto her, Drink now and be merry with us. So Judith said, I will drink now, my lord, because my life is magnified in me this day more than all the days since I was born. Then she took and ate and drank before him what her maid had prepared. And Holofernes took great delight in her and drank much more wine than he had drunk any time in one day since he was born. Chapter 13. Now when the evening was come, and his servants made haste to depart, and Bagoas shut his tents without, and dismissed the waiters from the presence of his lord, they went to their beds, for they were all weary, because the feast had been long. And Judith was left alone in the tent, and Holofernes lying along upon his bed, for he was filled with wine. Now Judith had commanded her maid to stand without her bedchamber, and to wait for her coming forth, as she did daily, for she said she would go forth to her prayers, and she spake to Bagoas according to the same purpose. So all went forth, and none was left in the bedchamber, neither little nor great. Then Judith, standing by his bed, said in her heart, O Lord God of all power, look at this presence upon the works of mine hands, for exaltation of Jerusalem. Anything you do, you pray to the Father, as long as it's anything you do, you pray to the Father. For now is this time to help thine inheritance, and to execute mine enterprises to the destruction of the enemies which are risen against us. Then she came to the pillar of the bed, which was at Holofernes' head, and took down his falchion from thence, and approached to his bed, and took hold of the hair of his head, and said, Strengthen me, O Lord God of Israel, this day. And she smote twice upon his neck with her might, and she took away his head from him, and tumbled his body down from the bed, and pulled down the canopy from the pillars. And anon after she went forth, and gave Holofernes his head to her maid, and she put it in her bag of meat. So they twain went together according to their custom unto prayer. And when they passed the camp, they compassed the valley, and went up the mountain of Bethulia, and came to the gates thereof. And said Judith afar off to the watchmen at the gate, Open, open now the gate. God, even our God, is with us, to show his power yet in Jerusalem, and his forces against the enemy, as he had even done this day. Now when the men of her city heard her voice, they made haste to go down to the gate of their city, and they called the elders of the city. And then they ran all together, both small and great, for it was strange unto them that she was come. So they opened the gate and received them, and they made a fire for light and stood round about them. Then she said unto them with a loud voice, Praise, praise God, I say, for he had not taken away his mercy from the house of Israel, but had destroyed our enemies by mine hands this night. So she took out, so she took the head out of the bag and showed it, and said unto him, Behold, the head of Holofernes, the chief captain of the army of Ashur, and behold, the canopy wherewith he did lie in his drunkenness, and the Lord had smitten him by the hand of a woman. You hear that, women? You hear that, sisters? All right. Mean, let me keep reading. So I wasn't gonna babble. And as the Lord liveth, who had kept me in my way that I went, my countenance had deceived him to his destruction, and yet he had not committed sin with me, to defile and shame me. Then all the people were wonderfully astonished, and bowed themselves, and worshipped God, and said with one accord, Blessed be thou, O our God, which has this day brought to naught the enemies of thy people. Then said Osias unto her, O daughter, blessed art thou of the Most High God above all the women upon the earth. And blessed be the Lord God, which had created the heavens and the earth, which had directed thee to the cutting off of the head of the chief of our enemies. For this thy confidence shall not depart from the heart of men, which remember the power of God forever. And God turned these things to thee for a perpetual praise, to visit thee in good things, because thou hast not spared thy life for the affliction of wait, because thou hast not spared thy life for the affliction of our nation, but has revenged our ruin, walking a straight way before our God. And all the people said, So be it, so be it. Mm-hmm. 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 Verse 14. Then said Judith unto them, Hear me now, my brethren. Take this head and hang it upon the highest place of your walls. And so soon as the morning shall appear, and the sun shall come forth upon the earth, take ye every one of his weapons, and go forth, every valiant man out of the city, and set ye a captain over them, as though ye would go down into the field toward the watch of the Assyrians, but go not down. Then they shall take their armor, and shall go into their camp, and raise up the captains of the army of Ashur, and they shall run to the tent of Holofernes, but not find him. Then fear shall fall upon them, and they shall flee before your face. So ye and all that inhabit the coast of Israel shall pursue them and overthrow them as ye go. But before ye do these things, call me Achir the Amorite. Wait, call me Achir the Ammonite, that he may see and know him that despised the house of Israel, that sent him to us, as it were, to his death. Then they called Achir out of the house of Osias, and when he had come and saw the head of Holofernes in a man's hand in the assembly of the people, he fell down on his face, and his spirit failed. But when they had recovered him, he fell at Judith's feet and reverenced her, and said, Blessed art thou in all the tabernacle of Judah, and in all nations, which hearing thy name shall be astonished. Now therefore tell me all the things that thou hast done in these days. Then Judith declared unto him in the midst of the people all that she had done from the day she had went forth until the hour she spake unto them. And when she had left off speaking, the people shouted with a loud voice and made a joyful noise in their city. And when Achir had seen all that the God of Israel had done, he believed in God greatly, and circumcised his flesh of his foreskin, and was joined unto the house of Israel unto this day. Now I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but um Like the Most High said, be peaceable with all men if you can, right? But it's not you know, we know that the books say many of these other nations will be servants in the kingdom. And so they have to be willing to bow down and reverence the Father and reverence his people. Okay. And then even from back in when we was in um even from back in Old Testament, he says any of the other nations that are with you, if they and your handmaids, whoever they are, they got to be following the laws and the statutes of of the Most High God of Israel. You can't have your handmaid, which resides with you, eating pork and worshiping another god under your household. Like, you know what I'm saying? They have to follow the Most High God of Israel. Okay. Um, Now wherever you plant, wherever that 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 person of that other nation decide to do outside of your household is whatever they decide to do. But the Ammonite here, and we know who Ammon is, right? He's seen firsthand what the Most High God of Israel does for his people, and so he vowed, he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin, and he was joined unto the house of Israel. It says on to this day, ain't me saying it, okay, onto this day. So we know, you know, there we have Edomites out here right now in different camps that are putting on fringes, that are coming to the Sabbath classes, and that are out there really trying to, spread the word to our people, and whether you want to receive that from them or not, um, it that's your, you know, that's a different story. But the point is that many of these nations, some of these people will come to the knowledge of the truth, want to serve our God. And who are we to be like, no, you can't serve our God? The Most High said they're going to serve our God, serve Him. They're going to serve Him. Okay? And this word have to be preached throughout all the earth and to all nations. So when that time comes, they can't say they never know, they never hear. You never see my people out. I never see your people out there on the highways and hedges. I never heard about you. They can't say that. Our people won't be able to say that, and they won't be able to say that. And when that time comes for them to every knee of every nation to bow and confess, you will have some of other nations that will do so. Whoever don't want to do that, off with their head. Okay. So, verse 11 in chapter 14. And as soon as the morning arose, they hanged the head of Holofernes upon the wall, and every man took his weapons, and they went forth by bands unto the straits of the mountain. And when the Assyrians saw them, they went to their leaders, which came to their captains and tribunes, and to every one of their rulers. So they came to Holofernes' tent, and said to him that had charge of all his things, waken now, our Lord, for the slaves have been bold to come down. Slaves, they're talking about us, have been bold to come down against us to battle, and that they may be utterly destroyed. And then went in Bogoas, the eunuch, and knocked at the door of the tent, for he thought that he had slept with Judith. But because no one answered, he opened it and went unto the bedchamber, and found him cast upon the floor dead, and his head was taken from him. Therefore he cried with a loud voice, with weeping and sighing and mighty cry, and rent his garments. After he went into the tent where Judith lodged, and when he found her not, he leaped out to the people and cried, these slaves had dealt treacherously. One woman of the Hebrews had brought shame upon the house of King Nebuchadnezzar. I'm saying that wrong, but whatever. For behold, Holofernes lied upon the ground without a head. And when the captains of the Assyrians army heard these words, they rent their clothes, and their minds were wonderfully troubled. And there was a cry and a very great noise throughout the camp. Everybody going crazy now. All right. This Hebrew woman done come true and completely just deceive everybody. Chapter 15. And when they let's see. And when they that were in the tent heard that, they were astonished at the thing that was done, and fear and trembling fell upon them, so that there was no man that durst abide in the sight of his neighbor, but rushing out altogether, they fled into every way of the plain and in the hill of the country. They also that had camped in the mountains round about Bethulia fled away. Then the children of Israel, every one that was a warrior among them, rushed out upon them. Then sent Osias to Betomastem and Bebai and Shobai and Kola, and to all the coast of Israel, such as should tell the things that were done, and that all should rush forward upon their enemies to destroy them. Now when the children of Israel heard it, they all fell upon them with one consent, and slew them into Chobai. Likewise also they that came from Jerusalem, and from all the hill country, for men had told them what the what things were done in the camp of their enemies. And they that were in Galad and in Galilee chased them with a great slaughter until they were past Damascus and the borders thereof. Hmm. And the residue that dwelt in Bethulia fell upon the camp of Assur and spoiled them that were greatly enriched. And the children of Israel that returned from the slaughter had that which remained, and the villages of the cities that were in the mountains and in the plains got many spoils, for the multitude was very great. Then Joachim the high priest and the ancients of the children of Israel that dwelt in Jerusalem came to behold the good things that God had showed to Israel, and to see Judith, and to salute her. And when they came unto her, they blessed her with one accord, and said unto her, Thou art the exaltation of Israel, thou art the great glory of Israel, thou art the great rejoicing of our nation. Thou hast done all these things by thine hand, and thou hast done much good to Israel, and God is pleased therewith. Blessed be thou, the Almighty Lord, forevermore. And all the people said, So be it. And the people spoiled the camp the space of 30 days, and they gave unto Judas Holofernes' tent, and all his plate, and beds, and vessels, and all his stuff. And she took it and laid it on her mule, and made ready her cots, and laid them thereon. Then all the women of Israel ran to see her, and blessed her, and made a dance among them for her. And she took branches in her hand, and gave also to the women that were with her. And they put a garland of olive upon her maid that was with her, and she went before all the people in the dance, leading all the women, and all the men of Israel followed in her armor and in her garlands, with songs in their mouths. When Judith began to sing this thanksgiving in all Israel, and all the people sang after her this song of praise. And Judith said, Begin unto my God with timbrels, singing unto my Lord with cymbals. Tune unto him a new psalm, exalt him, and call upon his name. For God breaketh the battles, for among the camps, in the midst of the people, he had delivered me out of the hands of them that persecuted me. Just like right now, in the land of our captivity, only the Father can deliver you, okay? For the ones that are persecuting us and shooting us down, and our sons down in these streets, only the Most High God can deliver us. Marching out there in these streets and tearing down things and all of this stuff, we still ain't crying to the Father. You still ain't crying to the Father, okay? All my sisters out there with their signs up, Can't Breathe and Black Lives Matter, you're not crying to the Father. You crying, but you crying to your oppressors. And then we thinking that, oh, because a couple of these blue suits kneel down and asking for forgiveness, a little bit too late. You know what I'm saying? Destruction. It's destruction. It's a little bit too late. Okay? One person from the other nations does not cover the crap they did to our people for so many years. All right? He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. and we just been dumbed down and so docile, thinking that we could kumbaya and hold hands like Martin Luther King said with the enemy, when we know that was a fault, because he said to separate from these people. You separate. Okay? Judith didn't tell her brothers and sisters or advise them, let's go down and kumbaya and assimilate into this into the Assyrians or with Asher. She didn't say none of that. And you know, it was quite the contrary. No, we supposed to be over here and y'all over there, because we lead two separate lives and we serve two separate gods, and we ain't about to sacrifice to no other god. Okay? So what are we doing now? What are we doing now? Why we think that we could why we think anything gonna change when nothing has ever changed for us? Black people, nothing has ever changed for us. We've been crying and marching forever. Nothing changed. Verse 4, chapter 16. Asher came out of the mountains from the north. He came with 10,000s of his army, the multitude whereof stopped the torrents, and their horsemen have covered the hills. He bragged that he would burn up my borders, and kill my young men with the sword, and dash the suckling children against the ground, and make mine infants as prey, and my virgins as spoil. But the Almighty Lord had disappointed them by the hand of a woman. For the Almighty did not fail, did not wait. For the mighty one did not fall by the young men, neither did the sons of the Titans smite him, nor high giants set upon him. But Judith, the daughter of Merari, weakened him with the beauty of her countenance. Mm. It wasn't no giant. It wasn't no 10,000 strong men. It wasn't, none of them. But the beauty of her countenance and the wisdom that she carried, okay, that was instilled in her from the Most High God, not the wisdom of this world, is what befell them and took them down. Okay, and it takes just a spark, just a spark. And that's why we have to lead by example. Women, you are stronger than you know. Just in your household alone, we have to just really come in to who we are, tap into our foremothers, tap into the knowledge of God, and just put on our armors. She put on her armors. That was very brave for her to go down into the hands of her enemies. But she went with God, you know. She prayed to the Most High God to lead her down there, guide her footsteps, to deliver their enemies into the hands of Israel. We really have to come together. We can't just rely on our husbands or our men, and our brothers to be out there doing the work. We got to stand behind. We got to stand behind them. We got to help. We got to lift them up. We got to lift up ourselves for those of us that are not being built up. For those of us who don't even have heads, you know, let the Father guide you. Because remember, she was a widow. She was a widow. Okay. And maybe you've never been married. Maybe you're not married right now. But that doesn't mean the Father can't work through you. Why he can't work through you? You're his daughter. You see, he did it with Esther, with Judith, right? He gave the Maccabees woman strength and wisdom to carry on in the midst of what was happening with her sons, and to stand up for the Father. He can do that with you. And he's going to do that with you, with us, if we stay firm in this word. Like, that's it. We can't have step. We can't have step. One here, one time with the enemies, and over here on the Sabbath with the Father. Like, you either in or you out. 7, what do you call it? 24/7, 365, 364. Okay? Choose ye now this day who you gonna serve. Because if you ain't with the Father, if you ain't with the Most High God of Israel, I'm sorry, things ain't gonna work out for you. Okay. All right. Verse 8, chapter 16. For she did put off the garment of her widowhood for the exaltation of those that were oppressed in Israel, and anointed her face with ointment, and bound her hair in a tire, and took a linen garment to deceive them. Her sandals ravished his eyes, her beauty took his mind prisoner, and he fashioned passed through his neck, and and the fashion passed through his neck. The Persians quaked at her boldness, and the Medes were daunted at her hardiness. Then my afflicted shouted for joy, and my weak ones cried aloud, and they were astonished. These lifted up their voices, but they were overthrown. The sons of the damsels have pierced them through, and wounded them as fugitive children. They perished by the battle of the Lord. I will sing unto the Lord a new song. O Lord, thou art great and glorious, wonderful in strength and invincible. Let all creatures serve thee, for thou spakest, and they are made. Thou didst send forth thy spirit, and it created them. There is none that can resist thy voice. For the mountains shall be moved from their foundations with the waters, and the rocks shall melt as wax in thy presence. Yet thou art merciful to them that fear thee. For all sacrifice is too little for a sweet savour unto thee, and all the fat is not sufficient for thy burnt offering. But he that feareth the Lord is great in all times. Woe to the nations that rise up against thy kindred. All the Lord Almighty will take vengeance of them in the day of judgment, and put in fire and worms in their flesh, and they shall feel them and weep forever. Everlasting torment for anybody that come against the nation of Israel, God's chosen people. Not just here on earth, okay, in some, state of being, because not all of the nation of Edom, is living it up by the facts of the earth. You have some of them that live in, they call them trailer trash, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, there, at the end of the day, you're gonna burn in hell. There is a place where you will be everlasting torments. And that's why I say in the kingdom, his people gonna come every Sabbath, and we're gonna take a what you call it? We're gonna take a field trip down to go see him. Okay? Down to go see them burning in torments. So there is a place where you will be, you know, in hell. You are going to be in hell. That is an actual place. Just like the kingdom is a place, hell is a place. All right. So, verse 18. Now, as soon as they entered into Jerusalem, they worshiped the Lord, and they worshiped the Lord, and as soon as the people were purified, they offered their burnt offerings and their free offerings and their gifts. Judith also dedicated all the stuff of Holofernes which the people had given her, and gave the canopy which she was given out of his bedchamber for a gift unto the Lord. And so the people continued feasting in Jerusalem before the sanctuary for the space of 3 months, and Judith remained with them. After this time, everyone returned to his own inheritance, and Judith went to Bethulia and remained in her own possession, and was in her time honorable in all the country. And many desired her, but none knew all the days of her life. After that, Manasseh, her husband, was dead, and was gathered to his people. But she increased more and more in her honor, and waxed old in her husband's house, being 105 years old, and made her maid free. So she died in Bethulia, and they buried her in the cave of her husband Manasseh. And the house of Israel lamented for her 7 days. And before she died, she did distribute her goods to all them that were nearest of kindred to Manasseh her husband, and to them that were nearest of her kindred. And there was none that made the children of Israel more afraid in the days of Judith, nor a long time after her death. All praises to the Father. We got through it. Oh, we just read 6 chapters. Oh my gosh. All praises to the Father. I'm going to wrap that up, sister. Again, we have to stay strong in this word. Um, we might not be a Judith, we might not be a Esther, but you're a child of God. Um, you are, can be worthy to be praised as well. Just walk in wisdom, walk in this truth, walk in the knowledge of the Father, and let's diligently seek his face. Again, we fall, but we have to pray for strength to get back up, and we have to be there for each other. All right, let's raise our children up in his laws and statutes. That's the best thing we could do for them. The knowledge of this world is foolishness to the Father, but once you know where you're grounded, who your Father is, and the history of your people and where you came from, once we see ourselves as the kings, the princes, and the princesses of this book, and that we have a God that is for us and willing to get us out of the mess that we're in, okay, then your whole perspective will change. All right? Stop looking to the enemy. It's going to be death, death, a lot of it. So choose ye this day. Again, just want to say all praises to the Most High God of Israel. And with that, I say, Shalom.
And I rise up